So when you were in college, then in your mind you were thinking, okay, I'm not going to go to get a 9 to 5. You were still thinking about the girl group, or was that a vision that you were seeing and you were aiming towards?
In college, yeah, we used to sit and think about it. After college, then I knew that I wanted to be a businessman and entrepreneurship. My undergraduate degree was in business administration and economics. So I took the role and the route of sales and marketing.
Okay.
And then, as you know, I'm a college professor. Most people aren't aware that there's two terms. There's entrepreneurship and there's intrapreneurship. Intrapreneurship is when you run an organization, you work inside of an organization, but you run your department of your territory. You run it as if you own it. It's a headset that comes with intrapreneurship and entrepreneurship. It's a way you think about things, and you take ownership of it as if it's yours. And so I went into sales and marketing and did corporate America for 20 years and was extremely successful at it, and took a lot of skills. And I always say that my first job in corporate America was with Xerox Corporation in the 70s and 80s, when they were like the top corporation to work in, especially for Blacks. Wow. But the skills that I learned, I always say, skills are transferable. I transferred those skills when I was in the beauty business, when I was in the apparel business with House of Darion and Darion, when I was in the music business, and now I'm in the film and TV business. I transferred those skills. Now, I have to understand the culture of the organization, because every organization has its own culture, their definitions, the way people dress, the way people speak. And it's important that we learn the culture as also, but it's also important that we get the knowledge, because the knowledge is power. So you had no idea this interview, because you thought I was just Beyonce dad.
No.
Most people do that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that sets me apart is that I focus on the journey of who I'm. Even if you were part of, say, Jodeci's stuff, I don't focus on the music as much as the journey, because that's the parts that we never get to hear and that we can actually learn from. Because what I wanted to find out was the experience you had in the Deep South with the segregation, and you're now working in corporate America. Others might start to, if they had any disagreements, they can start to see the same colored lines in their work. But how were you able to, because you did mention that you started to learn and culture and use it to form relationship. And I think that's one of the most powerful things I heard was about, you said about learning the culture to network and relationships. But how easy was that to not feel scarred and not feel bitter, and to take that sense of, well, I'm going to work with you for my long-term benefit?
Well, because again, I grew up and gone to white schools, right? So I understood white culture. I'm very open about Black, white, and various cultures. A lot of people like to use words that disguise it. I'm not. I'm just plain and simple. There's a difference in Black and white in our cultures, and I learned a lot of that growing up in Alabama. But I'll use an example. So how I got my job at Xerox is really interesting, because back then on Fridays, a bunch of guys that were working, and I was working at a Pitney Bowes company that sold mailing equipment, and we were just having happy hour. That was a big thing on Friday. A bunch of guys get together, have cocktails, and there was a guy sitting next to our table listening the whole time, and we didn't know it. Lesson one, you never know who's listening, right? Lesson one. So he comes over and he says, "May I have a word with you?" He picked me out of about 12 guys. And he says, I've been listening to you guys and I'm really, really fascinated. He says, but I'm really fascinated by you, listening to you and your leadership and how you're communicating. I'd like to offer you a job at Xerox.
Wow.
Well, that would be like getting somebody saying, I'm giving you a record deal at Sony. You know, you're like,
Wow.
what? Huh?
Yeah.
So I got that position and did very well selling copiers, which Xerox was noted for. But there was a position that became available in the medical division of Xerox. Now, this was the elite, all-white, affluent division of Xerox. We're talking early, as a matter of fact, 1980. And, you know, people there were making $200,000-$300,000 a year in 1980. And they were selling diagnostic imaging equipment.
Oh, yeah.
So I went to the branch manager and I said, may I interview for that position? Because I found out about it. He laughed. He was like, oh, go ahead, Knowles. You know, it'd be great experience for you. Great experience for you. And I said, well, thank you. Thank you. A month later, I interviewed and I got the job. And nobody could believe it. Well, in that year and a half, I had been the top sales rep every quarter, but that's not why. Everyone else that interviewed went in their interview talking about, well, I've been at Xerox 15 years. I've been at Xerox 20 years. What I did that was different, I went to the library for a month because the equipment that we sold was the leading modality for breast cancer detection called zero radiography. And what I did that none other did that of the candidates, I learned terminology, I learned the marketplace. So when I went in my interview, I wasn't talking about how great I was at Xerox because I'd only been there for a year and a half. I talked about the marketplace and I talked about breast cancer. And that really impressed the manager. I mean, he hired me because of that.
Wow. Yeah, people talk about don't dress how you are, but dress for how you want to be, and that sense of the vision, and I think that's the one thing that people can use your trials, as a battleground to learn how to overcome, as opposed to saying, well, I'll never get it, so there's no point. Because when your manager said that, go for the experience. Is that what then said, well, let me do this? Or was that something that even if he had said you can do it, you'd still would have gone to the library, still would have done the studying?
You can have vision all day long. You can have goals and dreams. If you don't put in the work, it's called a hobby. Yeah. A lot of people want to get in the music industry, but they don't want to learn. And they fail. 99% of people that try to get in the music industry, as you know, fail at it because they don't want to put the work in. If I told your listeners right now to go to Point Blank Music School, which is a London school, but there's one in Los Angeles, but I teach it online. If I said to your listeners right now, less than 1% of 1% would actually end up applying because they don't want to put the work in. And that's the number one reason for failure. People don't want to learn. They don't want to grow. They don't want to put the work in. So I believe that you have to have passion first, and then you have to have a vision. But with passion come work ethics. When you find someone who's passionate about something, they work hard at it because they love it. It's not work. What coexists with passion is work ethics. So that, and if I had said when my manager said, you're not going to get it, it'd be great experience, I didn't allow my brain to say that.
Yeah.
I let him say it, but that brushed right off of me. I don't think that way. I don't think I can't. I don't focus on what I can't do. I focus on what I can do. And if I'm going to do it, I want to do it at an exceptional level. And I tell everyone the first day of class, if you want to just be good at it, don't come back. I say that I've been teaching now for 17 years. First day of class, regardless if it's entrepreneurship, music business, or sales, marketing, I don't want anybody around me in my class that just want to be good. I just want people that want to be exceptional and great. That's the level that I work on all the time. I don't want to give you a good interview. I want at the end of this interview, people say, that's one of the best interviews I ever heard.
Yeah.
So you prepare. You prepare for it. You research who you're going to interview with. You research what the goal of the programming, what the ethos is of the programming, so that you can understand it. You don't just show up for an interview. If you want to be great at it, you do. If you just want to give a good interview, you just, oh, who's my next interview? But if you want to be great, you do some research on it.
You know, and that's an important lesson. That's because naturally there's a lot of us who naturally have skills. Athletes would naturally have skills, but you notice the ones who, like what separates, say, a Michael Jordan from the rest is what you do behind the scenes, and that sense of drive and work, not just showing up. And I think a lot of us sometimes think, oh, we've got the vision, and we use our natural charismatic personality in the interview, and we'll probably get it. But then you wonder when somebody else comes in, as you said, and says, look, forget just what I've done before. This is where we need to be going. And I think that's something that I really would hope that we're all going to pick up from. Did you coming away from that, then did you then still think, you know, after you were successful at Xerox, were you comfortable, or did you still have that sense of being my own boss eventually, and outside of corporate America?
So while I was at Xerox, I was there for 10 years, from 78 to 88. And in the medical division, I was there for 8 years of those 10 years. In the medical division, I was fortunate enough in selling copiers. I was always, in Houston, one of the top salesperson every quarter. When I got to the medical division, I was fortunate to be several years the #1 sales rep worldwide.
Wow.
So imagine what that means, being the top sales rep worldwide. But during that period, my former wife, who was an amazing woman, Tina, she had stayed at home and raised the kids, and she was bored of that. And I asked her one day what was her passion. And I knew the answer. She loved doing hair and making women beautiful. And I said, Tina, you go to school and get your cosmetology license. When you graduate, you and I will start a hair salon. So around 83, we opened, and I'm still at Xerox, so I'm at corporate America, but we also opened a major hair salon that became the #1 hair salon in Houston. We owned it for 17 years. But get this, Namdi, in, 1987, we made our first $1 million in 1987 with that hair salon in Houston. I mean, it was a major, at one point we had a staff of 25 people. So we're talking a major operation. So that was really my first major entree into entrepreneurship. You have to remember, when I was a kid in elementary school, I sold candy, went to a Catholic school, got in trouble with the nuns for doing that. When I was in junior high, I started a business, a salon service, me and 2 other kids mowing lawns. So I always had that entrepreneurial spirit. That, again, generationally, on the Knowles side of the family, has been passed down.
Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, to press the notification bell so that you can be notified when we do have a new interview. Loads to come, but thanks a lot for watching. You know.
I begin to